All right, well, I suppose we'll get started. Just want to double check that Yep, okay, I'm being picked up. Cool. Hopefully the music isn't too terribly loud. If it is, just let me know. And we'll get right into business here. As always, this is what I like to call 8-Bit Monsters, exposing monsters CRs. And this week we'll be taking a look at a preset, some preset monsters. A couple have been requested by people, either through YouTube or via TikTok or a couple other places, possibly. So let's take a look at our list. And right off the bat, I've got a few that were requested. The Duergar Despot and the Oni. And then if we have time, because I don't know how long the Oni is going to take, because I know there is some magic, and that'll be a good example of how I go through that process. There's also the Mesoloth, Severin from Rise of Tiamat, and an adult silver dragon that I was able to find randomly through picking up some CRs just from off the top of my head. So those are in no particular order, but I am going to take a look at the Duergar Despot first, unless some other people have requests or suggestions. So if there is a monster you'd like to see exposed during the live stream, then go ahead and throw it up in chat, and we will add it in there. If anything, let me add that into chat too, just in case people that show up later can request anything. To see exposed live. All right, and I don't know if I can I pin that? Yes, I can. Cool. All right, let me get this screen back up, and we will start exposing some monsters. Oop, wrong screen again. All right, so the Duergar Despot. That is in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So let me go ahead and pull that up, and we will take a look at the stat blocks and see what we have for that monster. All right, and see if I can find Despot faster. All right, perfect. So our Despot is on page 188, so 189 will bring us right there. And sure enough, we have our Duergar Despot. So let me zoom in a little bit so we can just look at the Despot alone. Yeah, that's good enough. Oh, and what you're seeing here on the left is my magic table. This is my damage tracker if you haven't seen it before. This is a slightly older one because it's for the Yuan Ti Mind Whisperer, but you can kind of see some of the stuff that I go through with this one. Anyways, let's jump over to my handy little tool here, which has been reset, and start looking over the Duergar Despot and see what we have. So right off the bat, we have, let's go into print screen. We've got our base stats over here. And I will be solely focusing on these two items right here, the armor class, hit points, and constitution, because we won't be needing any of the other items for the chart like wisdom and charisma. So we have an AC of 21, which is natural. That's impressive. It's a medium monster with 14 hit dice and a constitution score of 19. So already we're shifting around here, and we're getting a DC 7 already on the left side of the screen here, which is pretty impressive right off the bat. And the AC is what's doing most of the heavy lifting here, because that effective AC of 21 is already pretty high, pretty high over the expected. All right, next we have, like I said, let's also put in the expected CR. So this is expected to be a CR 12, which is important for hit point modifications and finding CRs and whatnot. Now let's take a look at the next section here, which will be the skills section. And we've only got 2 saving throws right here. So we don't have to worry about that. The save proficiencies. Why do I call it proficiency? Anyways, there's only 2 saves, and that is going to result in a +0 AC bonus, so we won't have to worry about adding those in. And then the next item is damage immunities, and there's only 1 damage immunity condition, so I always ignore anything with 1 or 2 conditions in the damage immunities or resistances. Excuse me. So unless there is a drastic change or drastic range or something's off, I'm not going to include the damage immunities into the calculations just yet. Generally speaking, my rules here have held pretty good. So we don't have to worry about adding in anything here. So next we can look at the traits section here. So let's take a look at our traits and see what we have. So right off the bat, we have innate spellcasting, which we have, let's see, what do we have for innate spellcasting? We have Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Counterspell, Misty Step, and Stinking Cloud. I don't think any of these are going to make much of a difference. The only one might be Stinking Cloud, but I think that just adds in a condition modifier. Let me look that up real quick. Come on, give me the... Ooh, excuse me. Huh. Alright, Stinking Cloud doesn't seem to want to be showing up. Oh. There we go. Okay. So, right, there's no damage with Stinking Cloud. It's just a DC check to basically... What are we looking at here? Make the characters indisposed for a round or 2. So we won't exactly count that in either. Stinking Cloud may be handy later on, as well as possibly even Misty Step could be beneficial. But for the moment, we're going to skip all of those. Now, we've got a big one here. Magic resistance. This is going to be important, and we will go ahead and actually add that in now. So we'll come over here to the left side and just tick off magic resistance to give it another +2 effective AC bonus. So our 21 has jumped up to 23, as we see up here in the calculation section for effective AC. Now, let's take a look at Psychic Engine and Sunlight Sensitivity. Now, I already know that Sunlight Sensitivity is going to be no effect. There's just nothing going on here, so we don't have to worry about Sunlight Sensitivity. But Psychic Engine, what does this do? When the Duergar Despot suffers a critical hit or is reduced to 0 hit points, psychic energy erupts from its frame to deal 14 psychic damage to each creature within 5 feet of it. Okay. So there is a chance for this to go off, but it's not guaranteed, especially not until the end. But it could be similar, it could be considered similar to Death Burst, like the Magman I have on the left side. So let's use that there. That could be a good place to put Psychic Engine in. All right, so we will add Death Burst here, and we will tick in, we're saying 14 average damage. And this is going to result in an additional +9 damage per round, since it only gets added in once. It could be added in more if the heroes or players critically hit, but for most likely we're not going to be seeing any critical hits, and we can't calculate that in because there's, in most cases, only a 5% chance of a critical hit anyways. So we'll use this as a death burst, like the methods, and go from there. All right, next we're gonna take a look at the attack section and see what's going on there. All right, so our Despot has multi-attack, Iron Fist, Stomping Foot, and Flame Jet. And the multi-attack, the Despot gets to do 2 Iron Fist attacks and 2 Stomping Foot attacks. Okay. It can replace up to 4 of these attacks with uses of its Flame Jet. What? Okay. Wow. Man, that's okay. Oof. This is going to be hard. All right. So up in the top section here, which I will highlight here, I use this as like a rough like scratch pad area to put in numbers and whatnot. So we're gonna say the multi-attack for that spot, the Iron Fist here, Stomping Foot, and lastly Flame Jet. All right, so working backwards, the Duergar spews flame in a 100-foot long and 5-foot wide line. Each creature in the line makes a DC 16. You gotta be kidding me. So this thing can do it repeatedly. It can replace up to 4 of these attacks with uses of its Flame Jet. So yeah, the Flame Jet can be done every round. Normally something like this has a refresh of at least 5 to 6. In some cases, I would even expect a 4 to 6, making it like a 50-50 chance of it coming back each round. This is just allowing it to be done every round 4 times in a row, provided you can at least get 2 targets in there. So we're looking at a lot of damage already. So, all right, we're going to do a little Excel math here and start putting in the damage. So DC 16 deck save and 18. All right, so we're gonna do 18 times 2 because, well, you can have up to 2 people failing, and that's what we're expecting. Since this is an AoE attack, we're gonna have 2 potentially failed targets. Stomping Foot, working backwards. Let's see here, 1 target for 9 bludgeoning damage, or 18 to a prone target. All right, let's take a look here. Is there any way for the Despot to make someone prone? Nothing in the spells, which, again, the innate spellcasting for this is kind of odd, but whatever. I mean, I understand it's from the Mind Flayers and whatnot, but okay. Stomping Foot. So we're going to suggest just standing for now, since there's no way for the Despot to go and make someone prone. So let's start with that for now. And if we need to up the damage to reach the DC or the CR12, we may need to look at that. So I'm just going to put a little, what did I do? I put a little asterisk there to try and remember that later on. And this is going to be 9.5 damage for the Stomping Foot. And Iron Fist. Let's see here. Iron Fist. Wow. Okay. Oh, no. It does make the target land prone. I'm sorry. I didn't read all the way through it. So the Iron Fist does make targets land prone, but they get pushed up to 30 feet away. And the Despot can only move 25 feet. There's something wrong there. All right. Anyways. Wow. Takes an additional bit of bludgeoning damage. Okay. So we're going to say, I'm a little flabbergasted by that, 14 plus an additional 10.5 points of bludgeoning damage for a total of 24. So if things are correct here, then I'm already seeing that I'm just going to use Flame Jets all the time with the Duergar Despot. I mean, I could do Iron Fist a whole bunch of times. We could do that. Yeah, let's see here. 4 times this to get 98 points of damage. But why would I want to do that when I can just do 4 Flame Jets all the time and get 144 points of damage. Oh, okay. With you, yeah, okay. Read as written totally says, you know, it can replace these with up to 4 of these attacks. That's bonkers. I'm just gonna highlight that with some green, because draw attention to that a little later on if I haven't done enough already. All right, so in our offensive section, we're going to add in our multi-attack damage for 144. And my laptop keeps going dark for some silly reason. Let me pause for a moment while I fix my laptop, because my laptop doesn't want to stay powered on for some reason. Let's just not turn any of that off for now, and I will fix that later. Okay. All right, so now we need to check off the uses saves, because we're using the flame jet, and we're going to be using the flame jet all the time. So we're going to tick that for the saves. I mean, all it does is just switches it to difficulty check, but I'm sure in my calculations in the background, it's also important. And then we switch this to DC 16. And sure enough, we've got no vulnerabilities, nothing to worry about with immunities. And I'm seeing a big old whopping... Oh, there we go. CR 14. We're supposed to have a CR 12, and we're getting a CR 14. Yeah. So we seem to have an underrated Duergar Despot. All right. So what could be doing this? Well, first of all, probably the flame jets. So let's swap that out and see what happens if we switch from the flame jets to all just iron fists. Like, you know, the Duergar is surrounded by a bunch of melee, like a barbarian and a fighter, and the rogues on the backside, and they're just like bop, bop, bop. Okay. Let's clear that out and switch this to Iron Fist instead. So we have damage per round, 98. We take off the difficulty check and we switch that to 9 to hit. And we still have a slightly bigger... We still have a slightly higher CR rating. So our... interesting. I don't know how I did that. But anyways. So even with just 4 Iron Fist punches from the Despot, we're looking at a CR 13 versus the expected CR 12. All right, let's try one more thing. Let's get rid of the Death Burst, because who knows how long this thing's going to last. All right, if we get rid of the Death Burst from Psychic Engine, because with an AC 21 and magic resistance, this is going to be... I see combat lasting longer than is necessary. So this is how we fix this Duergar Despot. We gotta not use flame jets, at least not all 4 flame jets, and we don't calculate in the death burst of the Psychic Engine. And we have our CR 12. Otherwise, we have upwards of a CR 14, which, if you know my videos and my shorts, I always go for the most amount of damage I'm allowed. And that's going to be flame jets all the time. So technically, with the flame jets, let's go back to that just to highlight it. Oops, what did I do here? Flame jets there, tick that, go back to 16. If I'm using flame jets all the time, every round, and I'm including in the death burst, which doesn't really do much right now, this part, this is a CR 14 I don't know, is this thing a construct? What is going on? Is this a Duergar riding in a big old machine, or is it got stuff strapped to it? What's going on here? Anyways, so we have a CR14 in my opinion. So let's see here. CR12, let's go back to my notes so I can write that in. Duergar Despot, and what did I find? 8, 19, and a 14. Yikes. 8, 19, 14. Underrated. Quick fix. Let's see here. Don't use flame jets. All 4 times. I'm sure we could probably figure out a combination that would work, but that's the fastest thing there. All right. So we have our Duergar Despot. Cool. Now let's take a look at the Oni and see what happens with that. I'm just going to take a quick sip. All right. Next, Oni. The Oni is in the Monsters Manual. And let me grab the Monsters Manual. All right. Let's find the Oni. Oh dear. That's a lot of yellow bars. Is there... Nope. Wow. I can't do a more specific search. All right, I gotta go down to here and search in the... down in the index. Where are you, Oni? Page 239. Thank you. And sure enough, page 240. All right. Can I zoom in just a wee bit? That's good enough. All right. So we have our Oni here that we're going to look at for the next monster. And then we have a CR7. So let's go ahead and reset. And I will just clear that stuff out for now. Yeah, we didn't even need the stomp thing that I was talking about before. All right. So for the Oni should be a CR7, and its armor class is a 16. It is a large giant. That's a little redundant. And it has 13 D10 hit points with a Constitution bonus of 16. I'm going to ignore Wisdom and Charisma because those are only for these items down here that I had mentioned before. Fiendish Blessing and the other one that usually monks have, which I can't recall again. Okay. So let's take a look at our Oni. What do we have going on for this Oni here? Well, we've already taken a look at the main stats and our stuff for it. So next we're going to look at the skills section. And we have some skills, which I don't care about, but we have some saving throws. And we have 4 of them. Man, that's a lot of saving throws. All right. It's got Dex, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. So because of that, we're going to come over here and update this from 0 to 2 to 3 to 4, which gives it a +2 effective AC bonus shift. So our 16 that it has from its chainmail is already bumping up to the 18 we see here in the left side. Next, we have nothing else important in the skills section, so we're going to go down into the skills area, or the traits, I should say, and we have innate spell casting. So let's take a look at that. And we have, what do we have here? Darkness, Invisibility, Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, and Sleep. All right, so Gaseous Form is handy for the traveling and whatnot. Sleep is good. That could potentially put out a bunch of players, but then their hit points would have to be low, so you might get maybe a +1 or 2 AC bonus from Sleep. Cone of Cold, we're going to calculate that in for damage. Charm Person, Darkness, Invisibility. So invisibility is interesting. In the traits section, invisibility says there's no effect because it takes an action to cast. But superior invisibility does give a bonus. Now, because invisibility is a spell here, I'm going to suggest that we might need that in a little... We might need to remember that one. So, let's see here. Cone of Cold. We won't actually need my chart because there's not enough spell casting going on here, so I'm just going to put Cone of Cold over here. COC. And it casts it at its lowest level. So, I don't recall off the top of my head Cone of Cold's damage. So, let me look it up quick. Alright. So, at base, Cone of Cold is going to deal 8d8 damage to two players. So we're going to go here. We're going to say round down. And then it's going to be 4.5 times... No, we want times. Times 8 times 2 players. So the average dice, 4.5. Times the amount of dice, 8, times a minimum of 2 targets, resulting in 72 points of damage from Cone of Cold, which it can do once, which is good to know. All right. Next, we also have on the right side, let's see here, let me get my highlighting. We also have magic weapons, which doesn't matter, so we'll just strike that out. And we have regeneration, which is good to remember. If the only regens 10 hit points at the start of its turn, if it has at least 1 hit point. So we can add that in, which actually, to spoiler alert, it's going to end up giving it 30 effective hit points. So let's take regeneration, add in the amount it gets per turn, and we're only calculating 3 turns. So it's going to result in a plus 30 hit point bonus. So our 110 is already going to shift up to 140. All right, now let's take a look at its actions. So come back over here to its actions, and we're going to see that it has multi-attack. It only makes 2 attacks, either with its claws or its glaive, so it can do one or the other. Yeah, I mean, it really... It can make 2 attacks either with its claws or its glaive. So it can either do 2 claw attacks or 2 glaive attacks, but not combining them. Whatever. Alright, and then lastly, shape change doesn't matter. That's only for purposes of infiltration and such. Alright, so let's take a look at our claws and the glaive. Alright, so our glaive's damage is going to be 15 slashing plus an additional 9.5. Oh, wait, slashing if it did damage in small or medium form. Oh, I see. So it starts as a large but can shrink down. So we will not add in the 9.5 because there is a damage shift. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to leave that at 15 for the glaive. And then the claws are going to deal simply 8.5 points of damage. Alright, so the best bet so far is going to be, well, looking at this, 2 glaive attacks in large form. So let's just do that. 2 times the glaive results in 30. But we also have a Cone of Cold we can use once, and hopefully we can target at least 2 players with it. So let's see the full attack of, let's see here, round down. This multi-attack for round 1, multi-attack for round 2, and a Cone of Cold for round 3. then we divide that by 3, and we result in an average of 44 damage. So if you ever use an Oni, make sure to use Cone of Cold. I had an Oni once, and it lasted 1.5 rounds. Alright, I had to move a cat. Actually, the cat's going to come up again. Come here, Violet. Alright. Oh, alright, well, whatever. Okay, so we have an average of 44 damage. So let's pop that in here from our full attack. We're not going to use saves because only one of the attacks is using saves, and the glaive is going to be used more often. Sorry about that squeak if that came through. I'm sure it did. So we're going to look at the attack bonus for our glaive, which is a +7. So let's update that to +7. And we have, looks like everything in. I don't see anything else that we could be missing from here except for the invisibility. And that is the concentration spell it could have for bonuses. So right now we're looking at, on our left side here, let me get out my highlighting tools. So at the moment, we're looking at a CR6 Oni. And something's off. Whenever I'm lower, I always like to verify whether or not I can get that up. And the only way I can see this going up anymore is with invisibility. So let's clear that out. And let's just pop on invisibility, even though it's not superior invisibility like from the Pixie. Because here's the interesting thing. In the wording, it says the creature can turn invisible as an action or a bonus action. As an action, the Oni can cast invisibility at will. So why shouldn't it be counted in? And if anything, someone might say, okay, invisibility is causing no attack actions on one of the rounds of combat. Wouldn't that take into effect? And I would suggest that because it's going invisible for one round, it is possibly delaying the rounds of combat calculations needed. So if the Oni decides to go invisible on round 2, then technically we would skip round 2 because it's invisible and can't be targeted until it is either found or becomes uninvisible. You know, becomes visible again. Uninvisible. God. All right. So let's click in superior invisibility because of the wording of can turn invisible as an action, and that is pretty much copied verbatim from the book. And sure enough, with invisibility, even though it's not superior, we are now at CR7. And we are expecting a CR7, and we found a CR7. Great. So everything seems to be lining up here. The attack, its offenses are a little low. Its defenses are right on top, or right where they should be. So basically, we're good here, you know. As long as invisibility is used and the Cone of Cold hits at least once. Or, yeah, it'll hit once. As long as it's used, this is going to be a CR7 Oni. All right. So let's go over to my notes here and go to CR7. And we have Oni, there you are. DCR 7, 6, we found a 7, and its rating would be even. Must use Invis and Cone of Cold. Alright. Pretty good. Alright, so we're at 5:35. Plenty of time to take a look at this Mezzoloth. Don't know what it is. This is the first time I've ever heard of it. Even though it is in the Monsters Manual, I haven't actually skipped through all the Monster Manual pages, but, you know, there's a whole bunch of monsters in there, and sometimes you just don't pick some of these things. Alright, let's come back down to our index and find the Mezzoloth. I'm moving too fast even for my eyes. Mesoloth, page 313. All right, so we'll come up here and go to 314. And we have the Mesoloth. I really hope that's the Mesoloth because that is, for a fiend, adorable. All right, let's zoom in a little bit and take a look at only the Mesoloth. Ooh, too fast. All right, coming over back to our the tool here. Clean that up, get rid of that. And dump all that. All right, so our Mesoloth is a CR5 fiend. Specifically a Yugoloth. All right. Our Mesoloth has 18 for its AC, which is pretty good. It's medium, which is surprisingly big. 10d8 hit points, and an additional plus 30 hit points from its Constitution bonus. All right. Cool. Already with 18 AC, 75 hit points, and a Constitution bonus, we are looking at a DCR 3, just let alone for that already. Now, let's take a look at its skills section and see what we can pull out of there. All right, so it's got skills. Don't care about the skills. We are only concerned with damage resistances, immunities, and condition immunities. I don't care about condition immunities. I don't know why I highlighted that. Let's skip over that. All right, so we have a bunch of damage resistances. We have cold, fire, lightning, and then our typical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Cool, so right off, we're going to be using damage resistances. But you might ask, well, it's got immunities too. What about the immunities? Only 2 conditions, acid and poison. I don't count immunities or resistances until there's at least 3, because when you have the typical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical, and that's the only thing, those are 3 items. Yes, 3 big items that are commonly found amongst all adventuring parties, but 3 items nonetheless. So because of the damage resistances, let's tick that in. And we get a 1.5 times hit point modifier because it's a CR5. Cool. All right, let's take a look at the skills traits, the traits section over here. So we have innate spellcasting, magic resistance, and magic weapons. We don't care about magic weapons for purposes of building the monster. So let's not worry about that. It's important in combat against the players, especially if they have, magic reducing, resistances just like some monsters get. But otherwise, we will tick the magic resistance box once we are out of here. But let's take a look at the innate spellcasting. So twice per day, it can cast darkness and dispel magic. Handy in combat, but not for creating the monster's CR. But we do have Cloud Kill. That's going to be important. So let's take a look at how much Cloud Kill is going to be doing in damage. Cloud Kill. Alright, so when a creature enters the spell for the first time, yada yada yada, the creature takes 5d8 poison damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Creatures are affected even if they hold their breath or don't need to breathe. So just remember that if your players want to hold their breath while Cloud Kill's going, still doesn't matter. All right, so we have Cloud Kill, and that's worth 5d8 poison damage. Since that's the only major spell, we're going to do like we did for the Oni, and we're going to put Cloud Kill up here, and that is a total of misplaced my fingers. Round down. 5d8, so half the dice times the number of dice times 2 targets, and the result is 45 damage every round. Unlike the... Actually, we could use the... Yeah, we could use the chart. It's probably better off if I do that. All right, let's go over to this tab and make a copy. Make a copy here. of the Mesoloth. All right, and then I'm going to shift all that over. Ooh, too fast. And I want to shift that over. All right, let's get rid of all that since we don't need to worry about that. And clear that one out. Now, normally I would, for people coming and looking at these charts later on from the shorts videos, I usually would show what I was doing for those calculations. But for this instance, we don't really need to worry about it. So Cloud Kill, it's a 5th level spell. And we will just repeat what I'd done before. Round down. 4.5 times 5 times 2, resulting in 45. All right, now let's take a look at some of the other things it can do. So we have a multi-attack, which I'm just going to do as MA. And the multi-attack is, well, let's look at it together, because I forget about that. Multi-attacks, actions and whatnot. The Mesoloth can make 2 attacks, one with its claws and one with its trident. So it can poke with the trident and bite with the claws. The claws will do 9 points of slashing damage. The trident will do 8 piercing damage because it doesn't have a shield. It's going to hold it with 2 claws, which it could do. It will claw first and then quickly grab the trident with both claws. And we have a teleport action. Mesoloth magically teleports along with any equipment it's wearing up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. That's going to be interesting. Teleport may affect the monster, but there's nothing for guidance. If anything, I might give it a +4 AC bonus, very similar to Nimble Escape's defensive bonuses, because you know the goblins can hide and disengage with that. So having a free teleport could, in essence, be very similar. Maybe a +2 AC because it takes an action to do, but it is slightly delaying combat again. So who knows? All right, multi-attack. We will look at that in a minute. Claws. So we have claws, worth 9 points of damage, and then the trident, which is also worth, I am going to suggest the 8.5 damage because it's 1d8 plus the 4. That's why I'm adding in that half damage. And the multi-attack ends up being 1 of each. So we'll do that plus that, resulting in 17.5 points of damage. So what are we going to do to calculate our monster's damage here? Well, first off is casting Cloud Kill. So it's going to find a spot in its area that it says, this is perfect. This zone right here, let's say for the sake, this is the battle map. And the blue square is the Mesoloth, and the party's down in the lower right here. So we're going to do the Mesoloth here, and the party is, you know, here's one person, here's another, here's another. And the Mesoloth's like, cool, I like this spot right here. Let's put Cloud Kill there. Or maybe it does something like this and puts Cloud Kill in front of it. And that way people have to work around it. Regardless, it's going to do something to put the Cloud Kill in its most advantageous position to protect itself and also keep the players in the Cloud Kill as much as possible. So maybe it's backed itself into an alcove, and the only way to get to it is through the Cloud Kill. Well, if there's no mage that has Dispel Magic, then people have to go in and face the Mesoloth in Cloud Kill as well. That's like perfect scenario conditions. So we're going to say first round is Cloud Kill, and then each additional round, in theory, the Cloud Kill will also target 2 more players, and those 2 players also fail. So right off the bat, we're looking at 45 total damage. But now we need to add in the multi-attack for its rounds 2 and 3. So pretty simple. We get those. So round 1 casts Cloud Kill. Round 2 goes in, attacks with its multi-attack, and also, in theory, gets the bonus or gets the extra damage from Cloud Kill, as well as round 3. So if all this goes off and according to plan, our Mesoloth is going to get roughly an average of 56 damage for those first 3 rounds of combat. So let's come back here and add this back in. Now, even though the Claw and Trident is... Well, no, there's only going to be technically 4 uses of the Claws and Trident together in all 3 rounds of combat. The Cloud Kill is technically doing more because it's triggering twice per round. So we're looking at 6 roughly uses of Cloud Kill, again, in theory. So let's use the spellcasting, the spell save DC, which is terrible. It's DC 11. I just spotted that. Over here on the right, we have a spell save DC 11. Ooh, let's see what happens here. All right, 11. Wow. It actually brought our monster to the correct challenge rating. No, actually it didn't. It brought it over. I'm sorry. Excuse me. So technically, our Mesoloth is underrated. This is actually really powerful. So we have, let me highlight that. Yeah, we'll just do this. So in our final calculation notes here, the Mesoloth is supposed to be a CR5, but we found a 6 going through our numbers here. And we didn't even have to take into consideration, wait, I missed something. I forgot all about the Mesoloth's magic resistance. This is going to bump it up even higher. All right, magic resistance. Watch it go. Watch right up in here. And magic resistance now. All right, so we have a CR6 Mesoloth. There's no way around it. I'm already thinking the easiest way of how to fix this, but for all intents and purposes, right off the bat, our Mesoloth is actually a CR6. It's DCR is a 6, its OCR is a 6. For all intents and purposes, this is a CR6 Mesoloth. Not the 5 like was printed, unfortunately. So let me go and take a note on this in the 5s for the Mesoloth. Found a 6 right off the bat here. So we are considering this underrated. And quick fix, don't know yet. All right, so how can we quick fix this? Hopefully it's simple. We can do one of 2 things, or we can do a bunch of different things. First off, let's not include Cloud Kill, and that's going to be the just 17 points of damage. So we're going to put in DPR is 17. We're going to uncheck the saves because that doesn't matter now, and it has a higher 2-hit bonus. So there we go. That's how you bring it to the CR5. Pretty straightforward. If you haven't seen it already, just come on over here to the final calculations and see that our expected CR5 is matching our CR5 challenge rating. And if you'd like, we can verify this by looking at the table to the right here, which I haven't shown yet at all. All right. So we have offensively 17 points of damage. And our 17 results in a CR2, which expects an attack bonus of 3. Now, our let's change the hue a little bit. We're expecting we have an attack bonus 7. Between the differences, that's 4 points. which results in a shift of 2, which brings the OCR to a 4. So let's take a look. Do we have an OCR 4? We do have an OCR 4. Perfect. Right there. Now let's take a look at the DCR and see if it does the same. So we have 112 effective hit points and an effective AC of 20. So we need to remember that. Clear that out. And we have effective 112. Was it? Yeah. With an AC of 17 expected. I think I said it had 20. So with a 20, we're looking at a difference of 7, which results in a +3 shift. And sure enough, with a +3 shift, we are popping down to just straight up DCR 6. So if we come back over here, we have a DCR 6. And then simply it's just 6 plus the 4. Averaging out, we get a CR 5. So that's how you fix this. We don't cast Cloud Kill. Go back over here. So the quick fix. Don't cast Cloud Kill. There you go. That's pretty much it. Someone else was asking me a little while ago about what would happen about modifying our monster. So let's say we want to make this something of a legendary monster. All right. So we want to turn our Mezzoloth into a legendary monster. Let's do the typical 3 legendary resistances. I got to clear that out. So our legendary resistances would come down here, and we'll add in the 3 to this spot here. Get rid of all that. So we'll add in 3 legendary resistances. So the CR5 monster gets 60 extra hit points, which adds in to the effective hit points here, which will bump it up to a DCR 9. So right off, our challenge rating has shifted from a CR5, not using Cloud Kill, to a CR7. So the 60 hit points right off the bat, we can think that potentially every 30 or so hit points added on to a monster will raise its DCR by 1. So let's check that. Let's see what happens if I add in... Can I do 1.5? I can do 1.5. And sure enough, if we look up here, our CR has dropped 1. So at least in the range of CR5, every 30 hit points that you give the monster, be it one item or another, will increase its DCR by 1 step. Alright, so what else can we give this monster for fun? Well, this Mezzoloth could also have legendary actions. Usually right off the bat, one of them is going to be, oh, use its claws. So let's say legendary action claws. And this is 1. It's allowed 1 claw per, or 1 point per use of claws. So we will say that just times 3. So we'll use it 3 times, adding in 27. So we'll take the average of the 17, using the claws and the trident per attack, and adding in our legendary claws for the Mezzoloth. We increase that DPR to 44, and our OCR jumps to 6 from whatever it was before, which I think was, what was it, 17. So it goes from 4 to 6. Losing my train of thought here. Perfect. So it increased it by, the OCR increased by 2 for that. And it does take into effect that, okay, there's more damage and our attack bonus hasn't shifted. So the bonuses from the attack bonus doesn't make as much of an impact since it's doing more damage. And we can verify that by looking over here real quick. We see here that now
It's originally going to be a CR6 with 44 damage. It's expecting an attack bonus of 7. Or I'm sorry, it's expecting attack bonus of 6. It has a 7. That's only +1 over. There's going to be no shift to the OCR. So our legendary Mesoloth here stays on OCR 6 because, you know, the attack bonus it has isn't as important or as impactful as it once was. What else could this legendary Mesoloth have for its legendary actions? Well, for sure, we could say legendary teleport for 2 points. And that's not going to affect our Mesoloth really at all. It's just going to allow it to jump around all over the place. And what else could it do for one more legendary? Something, it needs like a third legendary thing. Maybe it can, I don't know, maybe it can move. And if it can move, we'll say legendary move for 1 point, not 10. That's pretty much significant and similar to the Orc's aggressive feature. So as a bonus action, the creature can move up to its speed towards a hostile creature can see. Well, not as important, but it's about the same. So we could say if you use the legendary action to move, we could say, all right, let's throw that in that extra 2 DPR. It's not really going to do much. Aggressive is great for low CR monsters, terrible for high CR monsters. And for an expected CR of 5, but we're actually getting a CR 8, it's kind of a moot point. Although it does shift it up to an OCR 7, but because of the high DCR, it's not really going to do much of anything. But let's just change one thing here. Because of the resistances, the CR range could be playing a factor in here. So let's bump this up to an 8 and see what happens. Okay, luckily, because it's still within a particular range for resistances and immunities, it doesn't change the bonus here on the side. Luckily. So there we go. We have a custom legendary Mesoloth with legendary resistances and 3 legendary actions. So I could, in theory, which I think I will, I'll create this as a PDF. You know, use it for myself at some point, and it'll be, you know, a CR8 legendary Mesoloth. Cool. Well, thanks for... I am sorry, Vandary. I did not see your message. Normally I would end at 6. Let me see here. Are you still here? Let's see here. Could you do a CR calculation on the Sea Fury from EGTW? Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Yeah, I can totally do that. Hopefully that's a quick one. Let's see here. No, it's fine. Let's take a look at that and see what happens. I can go a little over. Not a big deal. I should have the book. Here we go. Alright. Let's see here. We are looking for the Sea Fury. Let's zoom in. Sea Fury, page 298. Oh dear. Okay. Lots of stuff going on here. All right, let's take a look at this. Sea Fury. So, what are we looking at for its stats? We got an AC 14, 105 hit points. So let's add that in. I've reset everything. So we're going to put in our 14 here. That's a medium Fey, and it has 14 D8 hit points. On top of that, it's got a Constitution bonus of 16, and I'll just throw in the Wisdom and Charisma for the heck of it. This is supposed to be a CR 12. So let's see here. CR 12. Okay. What do we have in the traits, skills and traits section? Oh, you know what? Let's skip that one. Skills area. So we have a whole bunch of skills. Don't care about the skills. So let's just not worry about that. And I don't care about anything over here. So we do have damage immunities though. Cold, fire, poison, bludgeon, piercing, slashing from non-magicals that aren't silvered. Now here's a good question. This wording right here. From non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. Does that mean the weapon has to be magical and silvered? This has come up. I haven't found a definite answer. And Vanderi, if you know the answer, I'd love to hear that. Because that one has kind of plagued me in my group for a little while. But we do have damage immunities. So let's throw that in and see what we're getting so far. Well, we're getting 1.5 times the hit points. So our 105 is now turning into a 157. All right. What do we have in the traits area down below? Well, in the traits, we have Amphibious. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have any effect on our Sea Fury. Innate spellcasting is important. And Legendary Resistance and Magic Resistance are important, just as we saw with the Mesoloth that I turned into a Legendary monster. All right, so first off, let's get rid of that. Legendary Resistances. Let's come down here, tick that box, and add in 3 Legendary Resistance. Oh, Cornucopia. Thanks for joining. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Vanderi. It doesn't say and or, so the wording is a little off. It's hard to say. But regardless, Legendary Resistance, it's going to get 90 hit points for that. Look at this stupid, all these calculations up here. So dumb. So we're getting in an extra 90 hit points on top of the 1.5 times hit points. So we're getting a whole bunch of extra hit points already. You know, the base, the multiplier, and the additional. We're already up to 247 hit points, getting us a DCR 11 already. And I'm not even done. I haven't even ticked on the magic resistance yet either. All right, so we're going to tick magic resistance and add in that +2 bonus. And our DCR has jumped again to DCR 12, which is a good start, but a little concerning about the offensive capabilities. All right. Now let's move down in... Oh, stop. Hold up. We've got some spells to look at here. So over on the right here, we have Witch Bolt, which probably doesn't matter. Bestow Curse, Fear, and Thunderwave. All right, so we have Fear. Fear is an interesting spell. All right, so I'm going to make... If you haven't seen this, this is my damage tracker I like to use when I have spellcasters. And I'm going to make a copy of this for the Sea Fury. Okay, so Vanderi is saying it's a pretty complex monster, so I wanted a second opinion on its CR. I just don't want my players to squash it easily, or too easily. Make sure it's not alone. That's my first point of order. Like, if this is going to be a big bad, the BBEG, the big bad evil guy or gal, then definitely bring extras, or do like the epic level thing from Xanathar's Guide, the epic table for those big battles there. But in the meantime, let's take a look here and go through some of this stuff. So Witch Bolt, Thunderwave, Fear. I'm going to add that in later because that will bump up the hit points a little bit again, possibly. Although it's not innate, so we might skip Fear. But anyways. Yeah, I'm not going to count in the lair actions. Oh, maybe I will, Vanderi. I don't know. We'll take a look at that in a moment. let's get the spell damage here for Witch Bolt, which is going to be... let's see here. Witch Bolt is being cast at its base. Because it's innate spellcasting. So Witch Bolt, it's going to be just 6.5. And then an additional 6.5 every other round. Thunder Wave, on the other hand, let's see here. Thunder Wave is dealing 2d8 thunder damage times 2 because it's an AoE. And that is a first level spell. So we're going to have 4.5 times 2 times 2 for a total of 18 points of damage from Thunder Wave. Not great, but let's also look at the legendary actions and its multi-attacks. All right, so multi-attack, we'll figure that out later. Claws, Cloys. Oh god, I did it again. Claws. The claws are 13 points of slashing damage with nothing else. So that's just straight up 13. Death Glare. What does Death Glare do? The Sea Fury targets one frightened creature it can see within 30 feet. The target must succeed on a DC 16 Wisdom save throw or drop to 0 hit points. I'm going to skip that one for the moment. Because it takes casting the Fear spell, which can be resisted or, passed, and then another DC check. This is 2 rounds that it's going to spend doing nothing but trying to kill one player. So it may not be as good as it sounds. But let's take a look at the legendary actions. So legendary action, as water, Fear transforms into water, doesn't do anything, nothing really important. Fearsome Apparition, costs 2 action. Sea Fury conjures an apparition of one of its dead sisters, which you can... enemies of the Sea Fury that can see the apparition or be frightened. Okay, that's important. That's helpful. The Fearsome Apparition. So that is another way to cause fear. So we can actually add that in as well from the trait section, which we'll get to now. Let's just do that. So we'll come down here and we'll add in Frightful Presence, since it has a couple ways of doing fear, to add in no extra hit points? That shouldn't be... That's not right. Let's use Horrifying Visage instead. Something's wrong with my math here. Why is that doing that? Well, it's supposed to add in an additional 0.25 hit points. Alright, anyways, we'll skip that for now. Let's see here. One of the lair action causes fear too. Yep. And I think that's the intended purpose. Yes. Yes, we just caught that. Thank you, Vendary. Alright. And then lastly, the last one it has is Conjure Snakes. The Sea Fury disgorges a swarm of poisonous snakes, which occupies the same space. Acts on its own initiative count. Alright, so that's cool, but doesn't help it out. Alright, so... Oof, okay. Alright, so to fix the fear issue, we've got 7, 14 here. Since the fear seems to be a little off, or no, it's not off, because, I'm sorry. The fear isn't doing anything because it's a CR 12. Frightful Presence is only taken into account if the CR is less than 10. So that's why it's coming up with the 0 expected hit points. Cornucopia said that's actually pretty neat, that it has so many mechanics that cause fear and then a unique way of benefiting from it. Yes, that Fearsome Apparition and having just causing 2 points is pretty wild. Alright, so we have everything here. So, alright, so yeah, the Death Glare is the important factor for this. Vandari sign is the same.
Your size, the same feeling I was having trying to wrap my head around the CR here. So this is going to be very similar to the that one undead, the floating skull. I'm forgetting its name, and it has the howl ability, and it just kills players outright. It's very similar. This is going to be one of those, I think, videos when I do it next, not this coming week, but it'll be in a video now that I'm looking at it. Right. So, okay. Thunderwave is its big spell, but it can only do it once each day, which is kind of silly. It can do claws. How many times can it do the claws? It can do the claws twice. So multi-attack this times 2. So we're getting 26. And the death glare. So, how? Oh, goodness. Just for the sake of it, let's throw in the multi-attacks and run this as the basis for what it's doing. Because the Thunder Wave doesn't really matter. It doesn't do nearly as much damage comparatively. If we, compare our Thunder Wave damage to our multi-attack damage, the Thunder Wave doesn't do nearly as much. Yes, thank you, Cornucopia, the Demi-Lich. Yeah, the floating head with the gems in its eye sockets. I did the shorts for that. You go back and you just can say, I think. It's one of my older videos, shorts that I did. Alright, so since our Thunder Wave isn't doing nearly as much damage, we're going to focus only on the multi-attack and get that as a basis for the damage per round. So, I don't even need to really fill this out. It's just going to be an average of 26 damage per round. So let's go back in and add this in for the DPR starting. And then add in its 2-hit, which is a +8. And yeah, what did I do? Did I miss something up here? What did I mess up? Something's wrong. Oh yeah, I haven't looked at the Banshee in quite some time, Vandarian. I have to double check that one, but I'm sure it's pretty much the same thing. What did I do wrong here? Huh. Something is... Why is this not coming up correctly? Because the effective hit points... Alright, let me reset this. I don't know what happened here. That's really strange. 3 legendary resistances. AC 14, medium. 14, 16. This should be a 12. Why is this not calculations from B12? I messed something up. Well, let's take a look at my hidden sheet here and see what I did wrong. Calculations B12. Alright. B24. Oh, what happened here? That shouldn't say false. Wait. CR calc A26 equals false. Huh. Well, let's see here. Oh. No. Huh. All right. A26. Let's go back to A26. And let's see here. A26 is this one. It's checked off to be true. Frightful Presence. And it's coming up as false. It shouldn't be outputting false. Did I miss something here? Horrifying Visage. Oops. Alright, so if
A26 equals false, it'll put out a 1. Otherwise, if B10 is greater than... Oh, I see. I forgot a step. So I need to fix that as well over here. And put that as a 1. Now that should be working correctly. There we go. All right. I don't know what happened there, but you saw me do some troubleshooting real quick. All right. Now we can hide that. Oh dear, that's why that was doing that. Give me 2 seconds. I gotta plug in my laptop. Cat. Okay, our DCR is fixed, and it's now properly coming out to a 9. We still have a lot to go, and more than likely the Death Glare is what's going to be doing this. Has immunities, which I forgot to put back in. Oh, right, there we go. DCR is now 12. Perfect. All right, and our Sea Fury damage was initially 26 with... What was it? Plus 8 to hit. Thank you. All right. We need to bump this up a lot to at least get to an OCR 12 because right off the bat, its main attacks are very pitiful. We're looking currently at an OCR of 5 at the moment. So we could kind of do this by the numbers and try and figure it out, but the real fun is just saying, okay, let's throw some numbers in there and see what happens. And since Death Glare does a whole bunch, and that's the general way of killing off players, we'll probably end up using the DC-16 to modify some stuff here. So, Death Glare. Let's say we get it in once, just for the heck of it. Right. It only has the one chance to use the Death Glare. So, how much do we need to really make this crazy? So let's start with 200. Let's say it just does 200 damage and outright kills a player. That is a total of 84 average damage. So, let's see here. We bump that up to 84. And yeah, already we're getting up there pretty good. Since that does the bulk of the work, we're going to also use the difficulty check. All right, wow. That was a lucky draw. That was really lucky. So the Death Glare does roughly an average of 200 damage. Vanderi, what do you think? Cornucopia, if you're still here, hanging out with me. 200 damage for Death Glare. And then we use the DC check, since that's the bulk of its damage. We are looking at, I think, a CR12 monster, because that Death Glare does so much damage, but it relies heavily on having targets feared. Otherwise, it does virtually nothing for damage. So, I hope that answers your question. Oh boy. All right, let me take a look at that. That's a CR12. I'm going to pop that in. Yeah, Cornucopia, it really is kind of crazy. When we get monsters like this where there's no definitive values and I have to take my best educated guess, I really don't know otherwise. We found initially a 5. So what was that? That would be either 26. Oops. And 8. So that would be work out to be a 9. 9 or 12. 5 or 12. Even? Sure? I don't know. That's my notes. I don't know. All right. Ooh, hate it when I do that. Okay. So yeah, that is Exposing Monsters live. I hope you had a good time. Let me go to the whole. Oh, there we go. Stream is offline. Yeah, that Sea Fury, man, that is one heck of a monster. Let's see here. Am I? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for joining me, Vanderi and Cornucopia. I don't know exactly when you joined me, but it was cool having you here. And hope you had some fun watching me expose a bunch of random monsters at first, and then looking at this enigma that is the Sea Fury. Especially coming from the Critical Role and Eberron, the Wildmount book there. It's a little rough. I'm always worried. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to step on any toes. Well, thank you for joining. Yeah, just be on the lookout for the alerts, Cornucopia. I usually try to post like what's the word I'm looking for? I try to post when I'm going live a little earlier, and you know, give people a little heads up, like a couple days heads up notice of when I'll be streaming. Usually it's Sundays, but if I got something else going on, I do it on Mondays because it's the next best day. Well, you guys have any other questions? Otherwise, I will wrap this up. Well, all right. I don't think there's any more questions, so Cornucopia, Vanderi, thanks for joining me. It was super awesome having you here. And until next time, enjoy DMing and running some monsters, especially the ones you may have seen here. Have a great night, and I'll catch you all next time.